So what did he do that you guys liked? Was that effective, first and foremost?
Sure.
Yeah? Good education, got a pretty good idea on the evolution of phone systems pretty quick, right? What did he do that you guys liked?
Identify the pain of the PBX right off the bat, saying, here is what you might know and understand as a phone system. Here's, what's wrong with it. Now let me show you, where Cisco and Avnet can take you. I like that a lot.
Okay. Did that look overly technical?
No.
Talking to your audience.
It depends on who you're talking to, because I think if it was a CFO or CEO or business owner, understanding the cards and all that stuff might have been a
He
little
gave us 3 cards though, right?
Yeah, it wasn't
Schedule,
that bad.
PowerShell,
It wasn't that bad, no.
voicemail.
I mean, he was
They can't
in the
grasp
middle of
that.
the road. He was
Yeah.
in the middle of the road. If he was talking to the CEO, he would have shaded one way or to another.
Yeah, I typically do. I mean, I say the word router. I may say we've got a device called a router that does these
Gateway.
functions.
Yeah.
Or a gateway, absolutely. But if it's real technical, then I'll go, yeah.
Good. Is that something that all of you guys think you could learn relatively easily? Maybe not deliver with as much flair or pizzazz as he has right now from the confidence built up, but is that something you guys understood what he was talking about there? I think that's going to be really key for we keep talking about finding opportunities to bring back to the manufacturers and pushing that sales cycle forward. If you can have that discussion in a first or second meeting without having to wait on an SE or a manufacturer rep or someone else to be there
Huge
with
checkbox
you.
in your side.
Why, Trevor?
Because they're not just looking at you as this meeting is a waste of my time, why didn't you bring your engineer with me right now? It shows that you bring some credibility to the table, that you actually know what you're talking about a little bit.
You become a
Just a
TA.
resource gateway, right? You are a valuable person.
Trusted.
Not the least of which means you now basically said, oh, you have a phone system need? Awesome. I'm going to bring someone back in a week and a half when I have someone available to
Right.
have this discussion. You just
You move the
have
sales
that
cycle.
discussion, chances are it's gonna lead to questions that you're not gonna be able to ask as a sales guy or bid somebody's type questions, and that is the perfect time to set up that next event, that next action item, which
Being able to do that also takes a 2-week process out of the sales cycle. So of having to bring somebody else in and, get another meeting scheduled up and all of that stuff. So, and it also gets it to down the line when you're moving forward, say you sell them this, now you're looking at selling them storage or whatnot, they're going to pick the phone up and call you and ask you the questions that they want to ask, that they need to ask about whatever solution it is you're talking to, because they understand that you know a little bit about what you're talking about. They're not going to say, hey, you got so-and-so available, or just call the engineer directly, right? They may on some stuff, but it brings credibility to you as a salesperson, in my opinion.
So here's a harder one. Who feels comfortable whiteboarding UCS? That's a tough one. Gonna try it?
Sure.
Okay. See UC. Let's see UCS.
Yeah. I can definitely do the components of it. Now, whether or not
Just throw it on there.
all right. So, is this basically what we're looking at as someone that's going from a just rack mount server environment to a blade environment?
Maybe it's Tessa.
Tesla.
Right.
Why does Tesla want to go to Cisco from Dell?
I don't know why I did that. You sold it to him.
All right, cool. So in your standard server environment, right, you've basically got each individual server, right? And you may have 5 of these, right? You got app servers, you got email, whatever it is, whatever, file servers, whatever it is that you currently have. Each server does a specific application, right? The hottest topic out there right now is everybody's wanting to virtualize, right? Just wanting to bring all of these servers down to say maybe one physical server, or say you've got 30 of these in your environment and you want to bring it down to 5, right? Cisco's come out with a product that they call their unified computing system, and basically what that has done is collapses these disparate boxes into one blade server, right? So why is that important? Blades have been out for forever, right? Virtualization's been out for forever. The biggest difference that Cisco has done is not only do these, because of the RAM, the way that the servers are, not only are these blades able to carry more RAM per box, more processing power, it also allows you to utilize 461, 40s, whatever it is, right? They've got their unified fabric controllers, right? So it's going to collapse down all of your fiber, your 10 gig, your 1 gig, whatever it is, all into one box. And then what this also does is it's also got your UCS manager, right? So all these are servers. They've got hard drives on it if you need it. They've got RAM in there if you need it. And these are really nothing but Nexus 5K switches with a UCS manager on it. Well, I should say switch, but it's a Nexus 5K device with the UCS manager. So what you've now done is you've taken these boxes and you've put it on one big box, right? And all these, like I said, all these are blade servers. And you're managing these not by logging into this port or this port or this port or this port to manage it. You can manage it and set it up by logging into one device. So you've got one device managing all of these. And now the best part is, and why Tessa wanted to go with it versus a Dell server is because what happens when you run out of processing power and RAM power for 5 devices? Let's say you've got different applications virtualized on these. You know, in the Dell world, you've got to buy a whole nother blade server. It's got their management application on it. It's got, so all these different blades that you're managing now, but in the Cisco world, it just plugs into those 6120s. So that's
But you
pretty
still
much-
have to buy another one.
What's that?
Still have to buy another one.
You are. You absolutely are. You're buying, I mean, think of it as like storage, right? You're
Expanding, you're expanding your
You're
solution.
expanding your solution because you have to. You're either going to buy, you know, a chassis and one blade, or you're going to buy a chassis, a blade, a controller, processors, and all of that to manage this entire box as well. You still have to expand one way or the other. You got to expand with Dell. You know, you got to go to a whole nother Dell platform, right? But with Cisco, you're just adding a chassis and whatever amount of processing power or RAM you need for a blade device, but the actual management of it is still going on to the 6120s.
But it's more scalable using fewer components that are using less power, less space, less cabling, and make it more cost effective.
Correct. And the cabling, you brought that up, that's a good point too, right? So they've got these, basically to power up this entire box, instead of having to have each blade going to, so say you've got an 8-blade, you know, you've got an 8-blade chassis here, right? So instead of having each one going up here with each cable going to their on switch in the back or at the top, wherever it is, and, you know, if you wanted to do 2, you'd go redundant with it. They've got this this device that's on the motherboard called a 2104, right? And all this is a fabric extender. So you've got a 10 gig connection. There are 4 ports coming out of this. Each one of these are connected to this via basically the motherboard, and it's got one cable coming up here. You can do 4 to get you 40 gig of throughput, or you can do 8 for redundancy, right? But if you really wanted to, you could only do 1. So I mean, you could get this thing down from 16 cables fully redundant to 4 if you wanted it, just depending on how much speed you wanted to do. So I mean, it does absolutely collapse your cabling. It absolutely reduces costs of total cost of ownership as you grow, because you're not having to add these. You're not having to add processing power to it, and it is going to increase your total amount of usage per blade because of the RAM that the technology allows you to provide.
Big hand for Trevor. That was a tough one. That's one of the toughest ones that we have, the whiteboard test, right? But it is the fastest selling technology that we have, fastest product ever to $1 billion, and is substantially one of the reasons why we are able to fend off the likes of HP, IBM, Dell, and create a holistic solution. So I asked Trevor to do that, knowing that was gonna be very difficult to do. But if we've got UC and we've got UCS, how do we tie a whiteboard together with both of those?
I was just going to ask a question associated with what you just said. Did you find more of the blade chassis that drove that, or more of the pizza boxes?
We are 90% weighted in blades right now. 90%.
When you
In
say
what?
Blades, hands down.
Okay.
Until we fix our supply chain issues and pizza boxes become second nature, I mean, it's all blades.
pizza box is a rack mount?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So UCS has been on market for us almost
2.5 years.
2.5 years, right? And what's your revenue year-to-date as a percentage for UCS?
It's 14% of my business. We've done $28 million so far.
The select team, it's almost 20%. So the accounts are just a little bit bigger than what Rick's responsible for. It's almost 20% of their revenue across the Carolinas. And when you look at the year-over-year growth, I mean, it's reverse hockey stick.
And that 20%, you're saying that like 80% of it's blades and
No.
20% of the overall revenue. So when you look at our revenue, roughly 50% comes from routing and switching, and 50% comes from advanced technologies or emerging technologies. In literally less than 3 years' time, 20% of our advanced technology or
UCS.
emerging technology is coming out of the server space.
Having not sold a single server 3 years ago,
Yeah,
it's
no.
now a fifth of our combined business.
I just didn't know what the difference
Yeah.
was between blades.
Blades are those bundles have really been the floodgates.
And I think one of the other messages that I have found that it resonates with me, when you start talking about old world servers, you're asking a server to sit in the middle of your environment and be a connection for both the Ethernet and to the desktop, and it's also being a connection to the SAN, because the way that servers became cheap is I took all of the storage out of the server and I pushed it into a SAN, but now I'm asking the server to sit in the middle and operate as a traffic cop. What do I want a server to do? I want it to process things as fast as possible. Let the network use its intelligence to switch or route traffic where it needs to go. So when you look at the Cisco UCS architecture, our servers do one thing and one thing very well: process data. We let the Nexus switching infrastructure take that data and decide where it needs to go. Does it need to go to the SAN? Does it need to go to the end user? Where do I push that data? That's what the Nexus device does in there. Because we are a switching and routing company, we're able to take that data and push it faster than our competition does. When you look at the old world environment, you know, you're in a fiber channel, proprietary. You had to depend upon the SAN manufacturer to figure out how to set everything in there, and you got a server sitting in the middle of it trying to be a traffic cop. Let Cisco take that data and push it where it needs to go as quickly as possible. It's part of the message to get comfortable with.
So if UCS is a highly technical whiteboard discussion, and it is, right? They're one of the most technical discussions we have. Why am I making a big deal out of that today for you guys specifically? Why do I think we need to understand the UCS architecture?
Because we need to friggin' learn it.
We gotta
It's hard and
convey
you're
our
selling the
message.
shit out of it.
We got to simplify it.
Yeah. What else does it do? What's the drag through from UCS?
It brings everything together.
Voice, everything else you just talked about, voice, video.
But what else? What else outside of me? Outside of
Storage.
Cisco?
Services.
Storage, hypervisors, and services, right? So if you can effectively deliver a UC and UCS whiteboard and pull services and all the drag-through business on the Cisco side, to combine that with services and all the drag-through business on the storage side, you effectively own the account, right? You create a more compelling story, you become a more trusted advisor, you hit your numbers, we hit our numbers, we sell quicker, we move forward. That really should be the pinnacle coming out of here, is the realization that you either do or do not feel comfortable having that discussion. And you max that up with Medic and everything we've just learned. You know, and you guys will be, I think you'll be way far ahead of the rest of the game. And we're going to do that here in a second. Joe, go ahead.